If you've ever wandered through a garden center or flipped through a seed catalog, you've probably come across plants that look absolutely irresistible. Thick greenery, stunning flowers, or bold promises of fast, effortless growth. But here's the hard truth many gardeners learn too late. Not every beautiful plant belongs in your garden. Some species spread aggressively, damage soil and structures, threaten native ecosystems, or even pose risks to human and animal health. And once they're established, removing them can be frustrating, expensive, and sometimes nearly impossible. That's why this video matters. Today we're exposing plants that countless gardeners, including seasoned experts, wish they had never planted. Some are invasive bullies that refuse to stay put. Others are toxic hazards hiding behind pretty leaves. And a few are both dangerous and destructive at the same time. Make sure you watch until the very end, because the final plants on this list are the ones that catch people completely off guard. Let's get started. 1. Bamboo, the elegant plant that turns ruthless. At first glance, bamboo seems like the ultimate garden upgrade. It's tall, graceful, fast-growing, and instantly creates privacy. It blocks wind, muffles noise, and adds a lush, exotic atmosphere that feels straight out of a tropical paradise. For a short time, it delivers exactly what you hoped for. Then the trouble begins. Most types of bamboo spread through underground rhizomes that are unbelievably aggressive. These roots don't respect boundaries. They travel under fences, sidewalks, driveways, and even foundations. Within just a few years, what started as a small planting can explode into an uncontrollable jungle, invading lawns, garden beds, and neighboring properties. Many homeowners only realize the danger once bamboo begins popping up where it was never planted. Removing bamboo is where the real nightmare starts. Cutting it down does almost nothing. Burning it doesn't stop it. Even digging it out rarely works unless every last fragment of root is removed. And missing even a small piece means it will return. Some people spend years and thousands of dollars fighting bamboo, only to watch it keep coming back stronger each season. Yes, clumping varieties of bamboo are less aggressive and can be managed with care. But running bamboo? That's a different beast entirely. If you truly love bamboo, the safest option is growing it in large, heavy-duty containers where the roots can't escape. Planting it directly into the ground is an open invitation to long-term regret. 2. Mint, the sweet-smelling garden. Hijacker mint is one of the most misleading plants you can grow. It smells wonderful, tastes refreshing, and seems like the perfect herb for teas, desserts, and summer drinks. It looks harmless, even helpful, but once mint is planted directly into the ground, it reveals its true nature. Mint spreads through underground runners that travel quickly and unpredictably. These runners shoot out in every direction, sending up new plants far from the original location. Within a single growing season, mint can weave its way through flower beds, herb gardens, walkways, and lawn edges. Slower growing plants don't stand a chance. Thyme, oregano, basil, and sage are often completely overwhelmed and crowded out. Before long, your carefully planned garden becomes a mint plantation, whether you wanted one or not. And once mint is established, removing it is incredibly difficult. Pulling it up often leaves behind root fragments that quickly resprout. That's why experienced gardeners all agree on one simple rule: mint should only be grown in containers. Pots keep it under control while still giving you easy access to fresh leaves. Some gardeners even sink the pot into the ground for a natural look, but the key is keeping the roots contained. Plant mint freely in the soil and you'll be battling it for years to come. 3. English ivy, the pretty plant that destroys everything. English ivy has a timeless, romantic appeal. Draped over stone walls, fences, or old buildings, it creates an enchanting, storybook atmosphere that many gardeners fall in love with instantly. But behind that classic beauty is a plant capable of serious destruction. English ivy is an extremely aggressive climber. It clings tightly to almost any surface: brick, wood, stucco, siding, and even concrete. Over time, its rootlets work their way into cracks and seams, causing structural damage that can be expensive to repair. Fences collapse under its weight. Walls weaken. Homes suffer long-term deterioration that isn't immediately visible until major damage has already occurred. The damage doesn't stop there. When ivy climbs trees, it wraps around the trunk and spreads into the canopy, blocking sunlight from the leaves. This slowly weakens the tree, making it vulnerable to disease, pests, and eventual death. On the ground, English ivy forms a dense, suffocating carpet that smothers everything beneath it: grass, flowers, seedlings, and native plants. Once established, it creates a lifeless monoculture that's extremely difficult to remove. Because of its destructive behavior, English ivy is officially classified as an invasive species in many regions, and some communities and homeowners associations have banned it altogether. If you're looking for climbing plants, there are far better options that won't destroy your garden or home. Clematis, climbing roses, or well-behaved honeysuckle varieties can provide beauty without the devastation. English ivy may look charming at first, but once it takes hold, it becomes a garden disaster you'll wish you had avoided. 4. Wisteria, breathtaking beauty with a brutal temperament. Few plants can compete with wisteria when it comes to sheer visual impact. When it's in bloom, long waterfalls of purple, lavender, or white flowers hang dramatically from pergolas, arches, and fences, creating a scene that feels almost unreal. Many gardeners fall in love at first sight, and that's exactly how the trouble begins. Wisteria is not just a climbing vine, it's a powerful force. Its woody stems thicken rapidly and twist with incredible strength, wrapping themselves tightly around anything nearby. Fences, railings, pergolas, trees, and even parts of buildings can become victims. Over time, these vines constrict their supports, cutting into wood and bark, restricting growth, and sometimes causing complete structural failure. There are plenty of documented cases where mature wisteria has snapped fences, collapsed trellises, and damaged roofs simply due to its weight and relentless growth. Below ground, the situation is just as intense. Wisteria develops an extensive, aggressive root system that spreads far beyond where it's planted. These roots make the plant extremely difficult to remove once it becomes established. Cutting the vine back to the ground rarely works. It responds by sending up vigorous new shoots, often thicker and stronger than before. Removing wisteria completely can take years of repeated cutting and digging. This plant also demands constant discipline. Experienced gardeners know that wisteria requires heavy, regular pruning, often multiple times a year, just to keep it under control and encourage flowering. Miss one season of maintenance, and it can quickly reclaim everything around it. For beginners, busy homeowners, or anyone seeking a low-effort garden, wisteria often turns into an exhausting and expensive mistake. If you're captivated by its beauty, there are safer ways to enjoy it. Native wisteria species tend to be less aggressive, and growing wisteria in large containers can help limit root spread. But planting non-native wisteria directly into open ground without a strict long-term plan is a gamble that many gardeners later regret. 5. Black walnut trees, quietly poisoning the garden. Black walnut trees appear calm, stately, and generous. They provide deep shade, strong wood, and nutritious nuts, qualities that make them seem like a perfect addition to a landscape. Unfortunately, beneath the surface, they are among the most destructive trees a gardener can introduce. The danger lies in a natural chemical called juglone, which black walnut trees produce as a defense mechanism. Juglone is toxic to a wide range of plants, and it's released into the environment through the tree's roots, leaves, bark, and even the fallen nuts and husks. As it accumulates in the soil, it creates a hostile growing zone where many plants simply cannot survive. Garden favorites like tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, roses, azaleas, hydrangeas, apples, and blueberries often show stress symptoms when planted nearby. They may yellow, wilt, stop growing, or die outright, even when watered and cared for properly. This often leaves gardeners confused and frustrated, unaware that the tree itself is the problem. What makes black walnut especially cruel is its persistence. Cutting down the tree doesn't solve the issue. The roots continue releasing juglone as they decompose, sometimes for years. That means large areas of your yard can remain unsuitable for gardening long after the tree is gone. If you already have a black walnut tree, careful planting is essential. Juglone-resistant plants like corn, beans, beets, carrots, and certain grasses can survive nearby. Sensitive plants should be grown in raised beds with barriers or placed well outside the tree's root zone. But intentionally planting a black walnut in a home garden almost guarantees long-term limitations and constant frustration. 6. Poison ivy, a hidden threat to health. Poison ivy is more than just an unpleasant plant. It's a serious health hazard that has no place in a home garden. While many people recognize the phrase, "leaves of three, let it be," poison ivy often goes unnoticed until it has already spread. This plant can grow as a low ground cover, a climbing vine, or a shrubby form, making it easy to misidentify. Its real danger lies in urushiol, an oily compound found in every part of the plant: leaves, stems, roots, and even dead plant material. Contact with this oil can cause severe allergic reactions in most people, including intense itching, swelling, blistering, and rashes that can last for weeks. The risk doesn't end with direct contact. Urushiol sticks stubbornly to clothing, shoes, gloves, tools, and pet fur. You can be exposed days later simply by touching something that brushed against the plant. Many people develop rashes without ever realizing how they were exposed. The most dangerous mistake of all is burning poison ivy. When the plant is burned, urushiol becomes airborne in the smoke. Inhaling it can cause severe respiratory distress, internal blistering, and in extreme cases, life-threatening complications. This makes poison ivy far more than a nuisance. It's a plant that demands serious caution. If poison ivy appears in your yard, removal should be handled with extreme care. Full protective clothing is essential, and all tools must be cleaned thoroughly afterward. In many cases, hiring professionals trained in safe removal is the smartest option. This is one plant that should never be tolerated, ignored, or casually handled. 7. Morning Glory. The beautiful vine that turns into a mess. At first, morning glories look like the kind of plant every gardener wants. Their delicate, trumpet-shaped flowers open fresh each morning in shades of blue, purple, pink, and white, creating a bright and cheerful display. They grow quickly, climb effortlessly, and seem like an easy way to cover fences or trellises. But once they settle in, morning glories reveal a much more troublesome personality. One of the biggest problems is their ability to reseed aggressively. A single plant can produce hundreds of seeds, and those seeds don't just disappear after one season. They can remain viable in the soil for many years and sometimes close to a decade, waiting patiently for the right conditions to sprout. This means that even after you think you've removed every vine, new plants can continue appearing year after year, long after you've lost track of where they originally came from. The vines themselves are another serious issue. Morning glories don't politely climb. They twist, wrap, and tighten around anything nearby. Garden fences, shrubs, flowers, and even young trees can become tangled and suffocated. In vegetable gardens, they are especially destructive, crawling over crops like tomatoes, corn, and beans, blocking sunlight, restricting airflow, and increasing the risk of pests and fungal diseases. In many warm and temperate climates, morning glories are no longer considered harmless ornamentals. They've earned a reputation as invasive weeds, spreading beyond gardens into natural spaces where they overwhelm native plants and form dense mats that are extremely difficult to remove. While their flowers are undeniably charming, their uncontrolled spread makes them a long-term headache. If you truly love morning glories, growing them in large containers where seeds can be collected and managed is the safest option. Planting them directly in the ground, however, often leads to years of regret disguised as beauty. 8. Castor bean, the showstopper. With a deadly secret. Few plants make a statement quite like the castor bean. With its towering height, often reaching 10 feet or more, and massive star-shaped leaves in deep green, bronze, or burgundy tones, it creates a dramatic, tropical look that's hard to ignore. Many gardeners are drawn to its bold appearance, planting it as a focal point without realizing the extreme danger hidden inside. The real threat lies in the seeds. These shiny, speckled beans may look harmless or even decorative, but they contain ricin, one of the most potent natural toxins known. Just a few seeds can be fatal to humans, and even smaller amounts can kill pets or livestock. Ricin works by stopping cells from producing essential proteins, leading to organ failure. There is no antidote, and symptoms such as vomiting, seizures, and internal bleeding can escalate rapidly. This makes castor bean plants especially dangerous in households with children or animals. Accidental ingestion is a very real risk, and even handling the seeds improperly can be hazardous if the skin is broken or contamination occurs. The plant's dark reputation extends beyond gardening history. Ricin extracted from castor beans has been used as a poison in espionage and political assassinations. most famously during the Cold War. That history alone should be enough to raise serious concern. While castor oil, which comes from these seeds, is safe and widely used in medicine and cosmetics, it is only safe because of complex industrial detoxification processes. Attempting anything like that at home is extremely dangerous and should never be done. In short, despite its breathtaking appearance, the castor bean is one of the most dangerous plants you can grow. It's a plant best admired from a distance, not welcomed into a home garden. 9. Giant hogweed. The plant that literally burns. At first glance, giant hogweed looks like something straight out of a prehistoric landscape. Towering up to 12 or even 14 feet tall with enormous leaves and massive white umbrella-shaped flower clusters, it's visually striking and impossible to ignore. Unfortunately, that dramatic appearance hides a serious and dangerous threat. The danger comes from the plant's sap, which contains toxic compounds called furanocoumarins. When this sap touches human skin and is then exposed to sunlight, it triggers a severe reaction known as phytophotodermatitis. The results can be devastating. People exposed to the sap may experience intense burns, large, painful blisters, and skin damage that can take weeks to heal. Dark scars or discoloration can remain for months or even become permanent. If the sap gets into the eyes, it can cause temporary, and in some cases permanent, blindness. What makes giant hogweed especially dangerous is that contact isn't always obvious. Simply brushing against the plant on a sunny day can be enough to cause injury. Gardeners attempting to cut or remove it without proper protection often end up requiring medical treatment. Eliminating giant hogweed is extremely difficult. Its deep taproot makes it nearly impossible to remove completely, and even small fragments left behind can regrow. Cutting it back often encourages new growth rather than solving the problem. Proper removal requires full protective clothing, gloves, goggles, long sleeves, and sometimes face shields, to prevent exposure. Beyond personal danger, giant hogweed spreads aggressively and disrupts native ecosystems by crowding out local plants. Because of its risks, it's banned in many regions, and property owners may face legal penalties for allowing it to grow. Despite its impressive appearance, giant hogweed is a plant that should never be planted or tolerated in any garden. 10. Tree of Heaven. The name that lies with a name like Tree of Heaven, you'd expect something graceful and beneficial. In reality, this tree is one of the most destructive and invasive species you can encounter. It grows at an alarming speed, spreads relentlessly, and causes damage wherever it establishes itself. The Tree of Heaven reproduces in multiple ways. It sends up aggressive root suckers that pop up far from the original trunk, and it produces thousands of seeds each year that spread easily by wind. These seeds quickly turn empty spaces into dense thickets, invading gardens, sidewalks, and abandoned lots alike. Its root system is incredibly strong and destructive. Roots can crack pavement, invade sewer lines, and damage building foundations. Like black walnut trees, the Tree of Heaven releases chemicals into the soil that prevent other plants from growing nearby, leaving patches of barren, lifeless ground. Cutting it down rarely helps. In fact, it often makes the situation worse. Once cut, the stump responds by sending up dozens of new shoots, spreading faster and farther than before. Many homeowners find themselves locked in a years-long battle trying to eliminate a tree they never intentionally planted. Despite its pleasant name, the Tree of Heaven is anything but heavenly. It's invasive, destructive, and extremely difficult to control once established.